what is PopCon?
Yeah.
Because my theory, my working theory is there's a lot of people out there that are just disaffected with politics generally, and the Republican Party specifically. And how do we get those people re-engaged with the philosophy of republicanism? Well, let's define PopCon for all the people that are listening, because we're going to have a lot of people listening to this that aren't going to like this definition.
I know.
So let's this will be the first time in, I sit and rant and rave on the Professor Penn podcast. Hey, let me tell you, if you're in the party, like Alex, we know each other, you're always welcome here. Anybody that wants to come into the studios of Free People Radio, I don't even know if we agree. I just talk to you with respect.
Sure.
True statement, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when I'm on ranting on my podcast, there's an entertainment factor to that, as you know, because you podcast.
Yeah.
If you're not engaging and if you're not ranting and raving, people are going to go right on by you. So there is a certain level of entertainment value, clownish in a way, kind of acting.
Sure.
When we're talking in here, this is serious business. And anybody that wants, Jim Nash, Julia Coleman, people I'm critical of, you come in here, let's sort out this idea. What is PopCon? I'll let you start.
So we first have our two different words, right? Populism and conservatism. And I know that at the beginning it seemed like that might be oxymoronic in a certain sense. But here's what I mean. So from a populist perspective, right? You say, what do the greatest amount of people desire, right? And then you have to start listing those things. One, they want to be able to take care of their family, right? Two, they want to have security in regards to financial means and ability to produce financially to be able to take care of their family. Three, they want to be able to have something that's stable, that allows them to have direct interaction with their child's education and learning. Three.
Well, slow down. Let's start over. I want to
Yeah.
get these characteristics down.
Yeah.
We're talking about regular, everyday Minnesotans.
Yep.
What you believe, it's just a theory.
Yeah.
What you believe motivates them politically, what they're interested in. The first thing you said was,
Yeah. So again,
let's do them slow again
yeah,
for the.
we'll do it slow. So first thing they need to do is, how do they secure a foundation for their family, right?
Okay.
So what do you need to have a family?
It's almost a survival level impulse,
right,
to protect those you love.
right.
Okay, got it. All right,
So
great.
you need to have shelter. You need to have food source, right?
Income,
So income,
safety.
safety.
Okay.
So you need to figure out first, how do you help a person secure their family? So then once you realize that this is something that people need, you have to start then build it out. What's second? And I would say it's like a 1A, financial. So how do you provide a financial opportunity for these people to be able to earn a wage that will allow them to secure for their family? So that we're talking about like middle class. What types of policies?
This is very interesting. I've never thought about it quite this way.
Yeah.
This is super cool. What you're saying is, and what we're saying to the politicians that are listening, and you know this, the constituents want to be able to take care of themselves.
Yes.
So why would there be populism is because the professional political class narrowed the opportunity for a majority of citizens to take care of themselves. So then they rose up with a different idea. Is that a reasonable comment?
Correct.
That is really the essence of the Trump movement. Is
Right.
that not it?
100%.
Okay, got it. So there's an economic imperative that's really related to love and family and safety, where the prevailing political professional class, we could call them neocons because they were steering the ship, right?
Right.
Were steering the ship in a way that was reducing the possibility and the potential for individual citizens to meet that basic need. Is that a reasonable way of saying it?
Agreed. And
Okay.
so Thomas Sowell said that there are no solutions. They're just trade-offs, right? And I think like that rings so true. The trade-off for neocons was, we're going to give away individual working class Americans' ability to exceed economically, to be able to become like, stable housing, retirement, so you can help raise a family and impact your community. We are going to trade that for having a bunch of money by having global trade. Okay.
Well,
That was to me the trade-off.
but let me
And
drive
I
it back.
don't think it was unintentional from that perspective, but that was the trade-off.
Well, let me just drive it back to the roots because I was there.
Yeah.
It was really hidden, the global trade thing. That's not how it was sold. It was sold as world peace.
Oh yeah, I know.
We're going to trade the economic independence and sovereignty of individual American citizens for peace, world peace.
Right.
And it seemed to work for a very long time. Did it not? Would you
Oh
agree?
yeah, yeah. It felt that way.
Well, even though we were constantly at wars to defend democracy,
Right. For American citizens, it didn't feel that
it
way.
right, for
Yeah.
us, we had guns and butter
Right.
since 2000 and Bush, if not since Richard Nixon,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that impetus, and I'm going to say in defense of myself,
Sure.
um, as a reform globalist, I believed that international trade was a fundamental cornerstone of international peace because I was brainwashed to believe so. That's why I supported George H.W. Bush. And then what did he do? He immediately defended Kuwait, and we had Gulf War One,
Right.
right?
Right.
But we were so gum dipped, my age group, because I was your age. Man, it was exciting.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
I
to
think, listen, I think it's a quaint idea. And I think that I'm not saying that we should be against global trade. Of course not. What I'm saying is that you have to understand that there's trade-offs. So what are you willing to sacrifice and trade off in order to achieve your goal? And what we did is we gave away our middle class and their ability that now generations after the fact, you have an entire group, Gen Zers and these new Gen Alphas that are coming through. They, under the current structure, right, sans anything that President Trump is able to actually succeed on, are not going to be able to do something as simple as buy a house in most parts of America. It's going to be unattainable for them. And that's because we gave away, right, this idea that you have control over your own economy. Instead, we gave it away globally. And so whenever you see that President Trump, right, trying to figure out what to do with Ukraine and Russia, right, having all these conversations about how are we going to manage what's going on in the Middle East, the big stick that the global trade, the globalists carry is if you don't participate, your economy will suffer because we will work against you. And what President Trump has said is like, that's true unless we make it really painful for you as well. And that's what I think these tariffs really are about. But let's go back to PopCon.
well,
So
PopCon, let me just
yeah,
review
yeah,
what I'm hearing you say, that there's basic survival needs that motivate the constituents, the sovereign citizens. If you don't have safety, because really we're talking about safety. If you
yeah,
think about it from a Maslow perspective,
yeah,
it's the fundamental building block. If you don't have shelter, you don't have food, and you're not physically safe, you're not a happy camper because there's no advancement after that. You're just stuck right there, scratching to survive. And what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is the trade off, the Thomas Sowell trade off, was the cover story was world peace. The buried lead was global trade, which made a small number of people very wealthy.
right,
And we traded, the trade off was the economic and the safety and integrity of the individual unit of the society. The individual sovereign citizen got traded out to pursue that globalist aim. Is so what you're saying
right.
is PopCon is anti-globalist. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that the con part, that's where the anti-globalist, but the pop part, populism, that doesn't necessarily actually give you whether or not you should be pro-globalist or anti. Because what I will say is that left populists are pro-globalists because they want to be a one unified world government system to still achieve what they think is layer one, which is their security. They're willing to trade away their sovereignty so you can live in the pod, be happy, have no access to vehicles, and you will have your safety. But again, it's about trade-offs.
That's so well said. I have to say that is beautiful because what we've said here at Free People Radio for a long time, the far left populists and the far right populists agree on the diagnosis of the problem. They just differ in the solution to the problem.
Correct.
And you just very, I think, beautifully stated the difference between the Republican popcorn and the Democrat popcorn,
Right.
right?
And this is why this is important. As we are doing this populism on the right, make no mistake, populists on the left, they're vying for their power as well, which would be represented by David Hogg, AOC. And they're trying to win, again, Gen Zers that are like, we don't have, like right now, we don't have the ability to go and buy this house because of how expensive all these things are. And to the left, their solution is, hey, don't worry, we're going to give you housing. Now, it's not going to be like the white picket fence, but you will have stability. You will have security. You just have to give us your sovereignty. Whereas I believe that that goes against, especially in America, and I think actually there's a deeper innate kind of longing that God puts in us that we don't want to be part of a collective blob. We actually do want to be individuals that are special and unique. But to the right, you say, okay, well, I want to have the security. So the second thing is, okay, well, what are you going to give me as an opportunity to be able to find that security? And to me, being able to have a robust manufacturing, a robust economy where people are able to make choices about what they want to do for a living, that's the key. So how do you make that happen? Well, you're sure not going to do that when you're competing against China, who has a third of our labor price, and against India, who has a third of China's labor price, right? You're not going to win that battle. You never will. And that's the trade off. So we can be consumers, which is what the left populists want. They're okay with America being a consumer class, right? I want to be a producer class and a consumer class, which I think you can actually do both of those things if you're able to wrangle back your own sovereignty, because I do believe that America can set the table that other people will want to buy our products. Other people will say, I'm going to invest in America because of your guys' technology, because of your innovation, because of the bare bone skeletal structure of your nation of having this constitutional republic actually does induce the best recipe to be able to have free trade, to be able to have free markets, right? And I think that all of that still will stem. But so again, when you go back to what populism is, securing your family,
Popcorn.
popcorn,
Step one,
pop one.
secure the family.
Yeah, yeah,
Step two, reestablish the means for the individual sovereign citizen to secure their family
correct,
domestically
correct,
because outsourcing is inherently unstable.
correct. For
And
a long time, and you have no control.